the world of the internet.
It can get a bit much sometimes.
I don't die.
Pretty much, yeah. Welcome to
Move Over Mother Teresa.
What is my purpose? What am I gonna contribute to the world?
Interviews with creators who
Show the world
give
vulnerability and masculinity.
Encourage consciousness.
Can I swear?
This is Move Over Mother Teresa. I'm Mira Kumar, and in today's episode at the Round Table, we are joined by alimcforever and obviously my co-hosts Tom Cledwin and Fee McKenzie. We are talking today about Ali's work on social media, breaking down linguistic weapons of empire. You may have no idea what that means, but by the end of this episode, you will, and you will understand how propaganda affects you in your daily lives, and also how and why the powers that be use jargon to keep us ignorant and placid. That's probably hardcore. I'm not sure. Watch this episode and find out.
Colonialism doesn't just take your land, it takes your mind as well.
That's a different story, and it's a more important one for us to understand today.
And your media won't have told you in advance. Take this as a warning.
So, Ali, thank you again for coming today. You break down the often very murky connections and links in the modern world, the propaganda of politics, finance, law, and elsewhere. And in many ways, this is quite a hardcore niche, and if not a hardcore niche, then at least a super interesting topic. You posted your first video only in February 2024, 18 months ago. So what was your...
2025.
February 2025.
Yeah,
so actually
yeah.
6, 7, 8 months ago. Okay.
So I mean, you're my first email answer.
Right. So you've only been doing this
Yeah.
for 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your potted history? What was your journey to get to that point in February this year?
I've spent the last 10 years working in corporate communications. So I've worked in some heavyweight offices. I was a consultant and had Fortune 50 clients, helping them with organisational communications in big global, like 50,000 plus sized organisations, and had a lot of experience doing that. And I guess had started to realise over time that often in those roles people are just doing it because they told me to, it's my job, or I'm just doing a job, without actually critically thinking about what's the impact of this. Like I used to work in pension communications at a time when a lot of them were moving from employer pays your pension to employer gives you a little bit and you're forced to save, and it was our job to explain that process to people. And now I kind of started to stop and think, well, that's quite actually unfortunate. Like that's maybe not the best thing that we could be doing, selling off all of the assets and getting people to learn how to invest just to be secure in retirement. I just started to question things like that when I was in the role, and that led me to do more research and think more broadly and look at things slightly differently. People around me were often looking at just the pension that they manage and never really looking at the wider picture of the politics of that decision to sell off that pension, or where these like bigger things come from. And the more I started to look across different industry silos, then the bigger picture started to be that we're making collective decisions that are not in our best interests. And a lot of it is just done from, oh, but I have to go to work. Like, it's not that people are evil. It's that this is the system we've inherited, and none of us seem to know how to like slow it down and actually look at like, well, is this the best thing that we could be doing? And yeah, that's basically where I started to create the videos, just to fill in some of the gaps that I think people were like, maybe we wouldn't make those same society level decisions if we were all a little bit better educated on our history and the political history and like finance, especially finance, because it's been so opaque.
It takes a special kind of person in mind, I think, to inquire to the level that you obviously do. What can you remember from your childhood, perhaps, that makes... I mean, was there anything about you as a kid that you can remember that was kind of more curious than others, or at least making connections across different themes like you do now?
There's an old folk tale, The Emperor's New Clothes.
Love that story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been repeating since time immemorial. And that it's the same lesson still, is that it literally takes one person to be like, that empire has no clothes on. That Donald Trump guy seems to be like just one person calling it out. that encourages lots of other people to do the same. And we've been teaching ourselves how to do that carefully through story for literally millennium. That's not for no reason. So it's more about like the stories that we often, they just skim past us. Like, oh yeah, the emperor has no clothes, the guy was naked. But actually, if you're like, the moral of that story is how easily power can be fooled.
Let's talk about linguistic weapons of empire. Okay. You are the first person.
Straight in there.
Because that's essentially what's at the heart of this. That's how you kind of reference the comms that the public receive on topics from Big Pharma, Big Law, whoever, all the people that you've kind of seen behind the curtains of. And I'm hoping that as simply as you can explain what you mean by linguistic weapons of empire and maybe give an example just to help us understand.
I think I speak like 5 languages. Like I only speak English, Irish, maybe a bit of Spanish, but I actually also speak now legalese and the finance language, and they are deliberately passive. And that was one thing that working in pension comms, I think it's actually kind of funny that I ended up in the pension comms job, because it was really capitalism unhinged, because they were trying to open new markets, get more pensioners to invest further. And one of the things that we had to do, when you don't want people to know about their pension, when you don't want people to worry about their pension, just want to keep it over there, you write like abstract from the trustees, like nobody's really doing, like your pension may or may not increase over time. But if you need them to actually invest, suddenly they were teaching us, retraining the language. You have to be like, your pension is invested by you. So it flips immediately into active when you want to engage people, mobilize them, get them to do something. The empire already knows its tricks. It has to speak to you directly, bluntly, and no more abstract language. And so then you have to start to question, why are we still seeing such passive abstract language in some of the parts of society that we really should be focusing on? Like politics, healthcare, kind of where, like, I think it's a disservice by the government to the citizens when that kind of barrier is put in place between, like, you don't want to read this is boring. When Number 10 puts out a statement, it's deliberately impenetrable. They could come out in monkey suits and dance around and make it interesting, but they don't. They deliberately close it off. And that's where, like, I actually like, well, why? Yeah. Like, the more passive somebody's language is, the more I'm like, well, that's suspicious. That seems to be where I want to go.
And it's usually what, to hide something or to...
It's just to tune you out. Propaganda takes advantage of human wiring. It's not something that you can avoid. Like, everybody is susceptible to propaganda because it's trying to short circuit your brain's desire for simplicity. Like, you only have so much energy in a day. And if you have to think long and hard and critically about every single thing, you can't. You just physically can't. And so that is weaponized against people. The more difficult it is for you to understand and think about things, then the less likely you are to challenge them, because what do I know? I couldn't even read the document. That was the point.
So I know that you did a degree in, is it media and communications?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I did a similar degree here. How much do you think that sort of training plays a role now in your kind of like your point of view?
Yeah, hugely. Shout out to DIT. I went to Dublin Institute of Technology, or it's called Dublin Technological University Dublin now. I think that course was incredible because it mixed soft skills and hard skills. And in learning how things are framed, like cameras, podcasts, editing, all that stuff, that also gives you another insight into, again, how propaganda is constructed, because an awful lot of the time it's what's not said, or not said until it's too late. And I think getting behind the camera and learning how, like, I wrote my bachelor's thesis on Hitchcock. I do not recommend doing that. Like, you could pick any director, but I chose thrillers. And so I was doing like critical analysis of Psycho, having to watch the thing over and over again. But how you actually build suspense. It was a really great base level learning for me to understand, again, how propaganda works, because it's the same psychology that's being weaponized in a thriller. You know what you're getting. in a newspaper headline or in a newsreel, you maybe don't know what you're getting, and you maybe wouldn't appreciate that some of Hitchcock's techniques are being used to invoke fear against immigrants or against whatever the rhetoric is at that moment.
Can you give an example of how?
Again, omission is a big one. So in a Hitchcock film, you don't actually see the bad guy. You see glimpses or shadows, or the music creeps up on you, but you don't actually, and that's the way bigger fear, is what people don't know. So if you had a newsreel that went out about the specific immigrant Ahmed and his journey, you're not going to feel that same fear as when this abstract boogeyman is like not said. So the more human, the less fear, the less propaganda. So the less human, the more fear, the more propaganda.
And painting them out to be this huge, massive people, it almost seems like a monster that's just, you can't see the end of it. There's so many.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm thinking of in cartoons when they'll satirize Hitchcock, they might have like a big shadow and then it goes close and it's just a mouse.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of psychology. Like your brain will start to fill, well, you can't help yourself. You'll just start to fill in all the blanks. So, and propagandists know this. So they leave those gaps. It's what's often not said is the problem.
And when you refer to the brain, actually, it's the sort of lizard brain. It's the
Yeah.
system 2 or 1, one of the one
Exactly.
or 2.
Yeah.
Danny Kahneman's breakdown of the two sort of ways of thinking. But it's the part of the brain that's actually not consciously trying to comprehend things.
Yeah.
It's reacting as it has had to through its evolved process, which is mostly just to fear and danger.
Yeah.
So that negative space, what's unsaid, is often painted in with negativity, really, or with fear laced in.
Because that's what is natural for you to survive in a chaotic world. You are going to prepare for the worst. So even though most of our fears are very abstracted now, which makes it even more difficult to like calm your reptilian brain down, because you don't know what you don't know, but you can say, grounded in this moment, I know there's no monster here. And people kind of forget to do that and they get stuck in the abstract and the what if, when actually if you look around, how often are these things really affecting you? Or is it something that somebody's telling you might happen in the future? We should all get really scared now, even though it's a sunny day. You could just enjoy it and we can deal with that later. People can, and that's really, really natural for surviving in the wild, but very, very unnatural in this civilized society. We're not actually evolved for our civilized white pickets society that we have. So our brain gets really confused. And rather than having, media and government who honour that and work to mitigate fears, and instead of that we have one that uses that to their advantage and has a machine to rile you up, especially if they want to get votes. Which I think that's where it is like, that's where they're not doing us a service.
So let's go back to like your channel, your brand, and what you put out there. So some of these topics are what you're breaking down within with your channel, your videos. Can you give us like a little overview of the topics that you cover? How do you choose those topics? What are you drawn to?
I think my core hyper focus is empire history. So the history of the British Empire. And I think that came from when I first moved to London, and I'd be out in nightclubs and we'd be, deep, meaningful smoking area chats 2 a.m. and the amount of, wait, we did what to you? That genuinely my English friends had no idea any of their history in the context of Ireland. And so that branched me off to be like, well, what else are we not told or showed? Because Irish people get taught Irish history in the context of, we hate the British, but we don't hate the British. That's what we're taught. But we don't get taught the rest. And so from there, I actually started to go further and talk to like West African friends and Indian friends. And be like, what else did they do? So I am the British Empire enemy as my number one niche is just going back into the colonial archives down in Kew, the National Archives. I'm there like once a week, like digging up paper like a mole.
Well, let's talk about that process. So you come up with these theories, things you're interested in, things that people send you requests for. Then what happens? Talk about the research process, the AI, the eventual video production.
Yeah. So I guess if I want I'll usually start with like, I'm pretty sure, you know, like a suspicion. Like, based on what I know, I have a good hunch that it might have been this way. And then what I start with is and I don't want to like promote any AI software or anything like that.
But
I start with ChatGPT. Specifically, I will ask ChatGPT first to see what we're being told collectively, because I think it's the most propagandized of all of the AIs. It's the one that will give you that party line that you're expecting. And from
just quickly, what makes you make that assumption that OpenAI?
Just from reading it.
Okay, from use.
So from use, and then like the amount of time that I have a whole scrapbook of when I've got the machine to admit that it's lying after a few goes through. Like, but you just said, and I know this, and kind of feed it to. So I'll start with that and look like simple Google search, simple ChatGPT question, and see like what are we being told, and then I start to sort of pick it apart myself and challenge everything that I'm supposed to know. Like I think the first thing to do is put down your ego a little bit, especially if you're talking to an AI. Like, nobody knows what you and the AI, except maybe the overlords. But you don't have to be like in your pride about what you think you learned at college. You can just be like challenge, like asking those kind of critical questions, and then from there I'll then start to compare it to I'll go to other AIs, I'll go to the library, I'll go to manual research, I'll go to what I already knew myself, and I'll start to look for the sources. And once I think I'm happy that I've sort of evidenced and found my sources, then I go and I find them. And that's where, when you're working with British Empire history, it can get really annoying, and it can take 2 or 3 months to actually finish a video, even though I've made videos I started in May, but I'm waiting for an FOI, or I'm waiting for an appointment it's actually kind of annoying to get into the National Archives. They don't just let you in because the stuff is old and not digitized, and so it can be annoying. And so then I'm waiting for one piece of information, or I might, especially if I'm working with Global South, I will stop at a certain point and put it into the Discord, and then just be like, is this feeling okay to you, Nigeria, before I go on air? And that has been an incredible thing that I would really recommend journalists consider.
And just to explain, so you have your own community on
Yes.
Discord of 1,200 people?
It's 1,500.
1,500 people
Yeah.
all around the world.
Yeah.
All essentially acting as your kind of research partners.
Yeah. Some amazing people in there that do their own local research, and it's really building more than just me at this point. But
And how did they get there? You know, at what point did you set that up and put the call out to people to join and participate in the way they do?
Well, I actually had been doing Discord before. So I came to London in 2023, and the way I actually made friends when I got here was I joined another Discord. Shout out Fred again. And yeah, and from Fred's Discord, I made lots of other friends, and was actually working in the music industry for the first year that I was here, and seeing other artists do Discord, and seeing the power of that, even just for artists, when people were like with the Fred Discord, it was really interesting because every time he would do a show, a WhatsApp group would fall out of the Discord, and these people are still friends. And I know a group of them set up their own embroidery club. So what started at a rave became, they meet every Tuesday and do embroidery together, and this kind of thing that can flourish. And that was only in the context, not only, but it was in the context of just they all like the same guy who makes music. Whereas imagine if you could scale that. And I think the recent activity in Nepal sort of left me going, this could be bigger than even I. This could actually, but just the very simple thing of connecting people in like a third space that's not your work or your family, but it's just like, you know, we're here because we all like this music, or in the case of my work, we're here because we want to change the world. We want to report truth or whatever. It can be quite a powerful thing. I just see it now as something that's a product of my work. Like, it's really belonged to them. It's not my Discord. I even took my first name off it. It's just forever, because it's an immediate decentralizing I'm not the star. I'm just a part of the community. And I really think it's really powerful.
What's been like sort of some key benefits, maybe some surprising things that have come from the Discord for you?
People stepping forward to, like, I was so surprised with the amount of people who have joined the Discord and offered me, like, if you need cybersecurity, if you need a lawyer, if you need a banker, if you need, like, it gave people, first they were initially showing up for me, and I'm really grateful and appreciative of that. But if anyone came and was like, if you need a lawyer, I was like, I don't. Thankfully, my employer is a lawyer. But if you want to teach people how to do this freedom of information thing, that would be great. And so they're now, anyone who can just give an hour a week pro bono, they can do that now because I have CIC status. So they can help out. But they just wanted to. People were just showing up, and across the board. Somebody who used to work for the US Air Force joined and offered her services. I'm like, how can I use this?
Do you have a plane I could borrow?
Yeah, like, what can we do? Now we've 2 lawyers, cybersecurity, and an Air Force flight pilot. So what can we do with that? And that's where I'm at the moment. Like, what can I do?
Yeah. What do you think unites the people within the Discord? Like, what are the kind of like shared values, beliefs, and also like to your wider audience as well? What do you think unites them?
So I am trying to make one thing really clear myself. So I'm kind of forcing this to be a value. I really don't like debate. I think it's not a healthy way to achieve when we feel like we have to compete with our opinions. I personally just find that especially in that forum where it's texting, where you may not have a profile photo, you really cannot tell what tone is. And so I had pinned a list of British Empire rhetoric and gave them, like, no ad hominem, like, no simple things like this, no fallacies. And those are the rules of the Discord, to say it's all right to have an alternative opinion to somebody, but please don't start, you're wrong. Like, we'll kick you out for that, very simply. Even if your point is valid, if you come in attacking people or trying to, like, create a debate environment, that's one thing that we really don't allow for that. So I think one of the key values is trying to listen more than we speak and cooperate, and actually have gone away and done the research and be presenting a considered viewpoint, rather than sometimes people are like, I think this about Iran, and you're like, that's a loaded statement. Maybe if you do some research first, and we do make that a value in the space. It's just to respect people, take it slowly, like, don't let emotion. If you're feeling upset, now is not the time to send an essay to somebody.
Probably not.
I'm intrigued by this, because this balance of sort of discourse, maybe over debate, is an almost impossible thing to achieve in a real life setting with people, let alone in a sort of digital environment where you're not kind of face to face. So it's really interesting that you've got that line, and that you, by the sounds of it, are able to moderate along that way. There must have been times, given the subject matter, there must have been times where emotions overflowed into that group. And so what have you done in those circumstances?
Kick them out.
Really? Just, it's as simple as that?
Yep. Simple as that.
Which I think is important, because a lot of creators, you're allowing people to come to your space, to your page, but ultimately I kind of think of it as like an online house. You can't let people come in, keep their shoes on, trail mud everywhere, throw things around, and come and go as they please. Yeah.
At one point I did sass somebody, and I was kind of like, this is like the online equivalent of peeing on the nightclub floor. Like, it's just not necessary. Like, just compose yourself. Like, this isn't an in-person reaction where, like, if it's an in-person thing and someone's getting emotional, I understand. But it's taking you some time to write this. Like, reflect on that. Like, before you go and press send, just remove the fallacy. Like, you can still say the same thing. It's actually much smarter. You're going to get so much more with, like, honey than with vinegar, to just rephrase your argument or put it into the AI and be like, can you make me kind?
But this is interesting, right? Because you have these, not criteria, but kind of rules for your Discord. And actually, you kind of have something similar for the AI when you're working with it to do the research. And I'm curious if you can talk a bit about those rules that you have for it, the things you ask it not to do, so that you're, I guess, starting from a place where the information is not sensationalist or whatever.
Yeah, well, I usually, like, when I'm, like, a standard prompt will include the words no hyperbole or no sensationalization, because that keeps me in compliance land as well. Like, I don't want to slander any human being, even accidentally. I don't want to make it about that kind of... I just want to be really, look, this is the system, this is the data, and then do with that what you will. Don't shoot the messenger, just take the data or don't, and kind of deal with it that way. So it's the same with AI, and it's part of what ends up in my log of reasons to complain, is when I see actually the machine give me rhetoric. Like, hey, I did not ask for your opinion. I just wanted the dates. And so I try and strip out a lot of that as well. And I do think that's a good prompt for kind of removing some of that, is just say no hyperbole, no rhetoric, avoid use of fallacy, or, you know, prove everything. And again, that's where certain AI systems fall weak and others do better. And if I've mentioned OpenAI, I might as well mention another that's better. Perplexity is another alternative where each sentence gives you back the hyperlink to where it got it. And that was what the founders of Perplexity wanted. They were ex-OpenAI and they were fed up of the robot just saying whatever. And they made a version that gives you a link back to every sentence. And that's way safer, better, way they should all be. So I would recommend people use that and have a look at that. But then the content you get back out is quite academic. So each system has different pros and cons. The danger and the beauty of ChatGPT is that it speaks in plain terms, and so people can understand it. But if you're not giving me facts, you're only giving me plain terms, then that's problematic as well. So it's like I'm like Goldilocks in the three AIs, trying to figure out which one's not lying.
Hi, it's Mira. Just a quick one. Can you send me a voice note letting me know who you want to donate your ad slot to for your episode?
Earth% lets musicians add nature as a feature on their streams to help fund climate projects. Artists just tick a box, but already those streams have backed Amazon families on a basic income pilot, supported legal fights against the Rosebank oil field in Scotland, and are helping make live tours green. Every play means real change. Learn more at earth%.org.
You're using kind of this workflow to disable the big propaganda machine, right? Although it seems there are many. Yeah. What's some daily propaganda that we're fed that you started noticing in your everyday life that most of us wouldn't be aware of?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think it's just that, like, what we always is where the information stops. That kind of bothers me, is that we talk about, you know, an immigration problem, people coming to the UK, this kind of, but we never talk about why. Why did they have to leave their homes in the first place? Would that have anything to do with the military industrial complex? Like, that's kind of like, if you're not joining up, well, the way to stop immigrants is less about the boats in the channel and more about the bombs in Syria, or, like, you know, you need to connect it to, well, where is Britain culpable in this before we start, you know, because you'll never stop that flow of people if they're running away from war. So you have to ask, why are they running in the first place? And it's the same across the board, whether it's the immigration topic or NHS defunding or like anything. It's just where the information stops is usually, it falls short of what's acceptable. And we have just normalised that of like, okay, whatever question, well, why? How did we get here? I think that's the biggest misconception. And I think it's across the right and the left. It's just that the information falls short. Like, we only hear the bit that the government wants you to hear. They do not like it when you start talking around the edges.
And if you don't talk around the edges and get to the kind of root cause, such as the bombs falling, then how can anybody respond to the information you are getting with any form of love and compassion anyway, right? If the rhetoric and the information is really just about the symptoms of a problem, such as people arriving on boats, then as a voter, like, how am I ever going to connect to the information that's not there, which is the root cause, in a way that has love, compassion, sympathy, empathy, all the things that's sort of required, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the topics that have really resonated with audiences, because you've created so much content, you've had so much success in terms of like viewership, number of followers, subscribers across different platforms. What have been some like the top videos you think that have really got people like talking, engaging in the comments, or resharing?
One of my most successful and probably my favourite, and I would love to return to it because I've only done 12 and there's hundreds, is I used The Simpsons to break down capitalism. And I love that because I love that these writers 20 or 30 years ago wrote for me to just pick it up. And because The Simpsons was always so heavily coded in counterculture. Like they had Trump on the elevator in like 2000. And I've done a few of those episodes where you break it down, and it's such well-written satire that I don't really have to try to make it funny. And it's such a great vehicle for educating people on exactly what's wrong with our current system of capitalism. But it does it in a nice nostalgic way. So I'd say I've had a lot of positive feedback and really enjoyed doing the Simpsons series. And that's where I think I've done some of the Disney stuff as well, with the same mentality of like what was happening around the edges. So one of my favourite videos that I've produced and did really well for me was, there's a song, Whistle While You Work, from the 20s.
It's Nowhere in the Seven Dwarfs.
Can you whistle it?
No, I can't whistle. Who can?
Yeah.
That one.
I can't do it. But the history of that is so much more interesting because it actually came from corporate welfare department posters. So the original HR department were never brought in to look after employees. They were brought in to keep people busy and loyal and motivated. And they had Tin Pan Alley, who were jingle writers in the 20s, really famous for writing like advertising jingles. And the HR departments had brought in these jingle writers to produce this song, Whistle While You Work. And then that got picked up by Disney and used in the film, the Snow White 7. But nobody ever thinks of that or talks about that, or the fact that like it was designed by people who knew how to make music that moves you, to make you work, whistle while you work, to make you work harder. And even the pacing of it is deliberately the same as the machines would have been.
Right.
Okay. What you have to whistle while you work. Like
oh
it
my
literally
gosh.
That's how much people thought about it. Just to keep you grinning and cheery.
This is the kind of story as well that, once you lift up the curtain to realize that even a song like that has this story behind it that's, again, got kind of murky intentions, you come away thinking that, for me, like that blows open my critical mind, right? Where you just start to look healthily at everything and think, okay, like how is everything produced, written, why? And it's amazing that, I think you operate in this really interesting space. It's almost like an investigative journalist who is looking at how to use storytelling in often short form mediums to actually entertain people first and foremost, right? To spark some interest and curiosity in them that allows them to enter into this world of critical thinking. And this is a really unique time. I wonder, maybe just as a thought experiment, if you imagine yourself 20 years ago, being the age you are and having taken the career path you have, like how would your work express itself in a pre-social media age?
Well, I've thought about it because when I finished college 2016 and I knew what I knew, I had written my master's thesis on war propaganda, specifically what happened in 2003 and how the media and all the inquiries and stuff. And then at the time I was like, a lot of this stuff, if I speak about it, I'm just going to be dismissed as a conspiracy theorist. And so the world actually had to change a bit before someone like me could even be embraced in what I was saying. When I originally did my master's, I remember not wanting to speak about it to a lot of people because you're just going to think I'm nuts, or you're just going to mark me as conspiracy theory, when actually it was all real. It's all real, but people started to look at things differently over the last 2 years, and that allowed me to enter with some level of legitimacy and not just be dismissed, because people were ready to hear it a little bit more.
And what's changed in the last 2 years that means you're...
Gaza.
Right.
You watch a live stream genocide for 2 years, people start asking why. And so now they understand when I start talking about the British Empire, well, what was the Balfour Agreement, or where did that come from? Or like, how can you say this was... I don't want to get into politics like this, but the British were troops on the ground 20 years before the war. So that narrative has to be dismantled. It's just not correct to say. So that's what started it for me, was looking at that and looking at both sides, and having Jewish friends here in England who weren't aware that the original structures in Israel were colonial trust. They had taken the East India Stock Company and put the legal structures around Israel in the same way. So whether it wanted to be a colony or not, it structurally behaves like that, and still does.
For the purpose of the Suez Canal and control
Yes.
of it, right?
The impact, though, is really interesting, right? Because you have had a direct impact on Irish politics, but also some other stuff. Organisations reach out to you. So can you talk about that? Because that in and of itself, a creator having real world impact fairly quickly. I mean, February this year, I thought it was February last year that you started, is shocking and actually quite inspiring and exciting. So talk a little bit about that impact, talk about the organisations who use your work.
Yeah, it's been exciting. One of the first long format Substack essays that I produced, I did a full deep dive, follow the money behind Nigel Farage. And at the time, Good Law Project actually reached out and were like, can we use some of this? And I was like, absolutely. If you can do something with that, please do. And that was really reaffirming to me. And I'm always really happy with that, when people take the work and can do something with it, or want to take it forward, or it gives someone else a lead to pick something up. Like even on the back of a video last week, I put a Substack out that so Led by Donkeys are an organisation, and they had done the lights on Windsor Castle when Trump announced it. And the government are trying to charge them for malicious communications under the malicious communication. Okay, if you want a benchmark by the malicious communications, I can find at least 12 different examples of the Home Office themselves doing that. And so took the first one, the Stop the Boats campaigns, also technically breaches the malicious communications, actually more than Led by Donkeys. And so I did the full case strategy. I put it on Substack. And I was like, if any lawyer wants to take that forward, I'm going to do all 12 of them, the examples that I found. So if you want to say that Led by Donkeys is malicious communications,
so are you.
So are you.
And just to explain to the listeners, Led by Donkeys, and add to this, Ali, if I'm going to miss anything, but they are a group, I think, an anonymous group, or it's certainly difficult perhaps to work out who's behind them. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I just haven't done my research.
I think they're known.
They're known, okay. Yeah. So they're a group ultimately of activists who protest with such humour, creativity, like campaigning. And they're big on social, but it's often just actually they're documenting and showing what they're doing in real life. But yeah, I think from my perspective, if you're going to go after a group like Led by Donkeys, who go about their work with to make it so, what's the word? I guess humour becomes a sort of accessibility point.
Yeah. Led by Donkeys, their name actually is an old soldier's chant. So British Army lions led by donkeys. This is an awareness within the army itself that they were lions led by donkeys. And they're quite, like, for me, Led by Donkeys are very much pride of British, to be honest, as an outsider looking in, because they use art and British banter to inflect on power. And that is the most powerful thing you can do, is turn the scary strongman into the buffoonish clown.
Ali, thank you so much for coming on. I guess this in my head, I've been thinking, such is just how in awe I am of what you do. Like, where does my gratitude lie? But in all seriousness, like, just thank you, and thank thank God there are just people out you doing the work you're doing. And it's kind of romantic in a way that you're using the very platforms that are as a bit of a symptom to all you talk about, to leverage and reach people in the way you are as well. So we give all our guests a drop-dead generous grant. So £380 to pay it forward in whatever way you wish through an act of kindness. I normally have a golden ticket at this point that I pull out, but I don't know where it is. So I guess just as another way to say thank you for your time today, but also the work you do. It would be our honour to call you a grantee. If you have an idea for how you might pay forward one of our grants, we would love to call you a grantee.
Oh, that's so nice. Okay, thank you. So, okay.
We'll follow up after the record, don't worry, on the
Get the
details.
full rundown, don't worry.
Thank you, that's amazing.
But thank you.
Thank you so much. I almost forgot. If you have listened or watched this song, first of all, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Second of all, I would love if you would share this episode with your community. We put a lot of hard work into making it, and I, for one, would love to keep my job, but also continue to make the show. So the more people who listen and watch, the more likely it is that we get to keep making it, the more people we reach and hopefully help, and the more creators we get to platform. So thank you so much. Please do share it, and I'll see you next week.